Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Hi, folks. Great to have you here. You know, it is amazing how coincidence happens. When coincidence happens, it makes you ask, is it coincidence? It's amazing how events occur in your life with unbelievable timing. Last night, I saw a movie which puts the folly and selfishness of Colin Kaepernick in full focus. And it was by happenstance. Pure happenstance. Greetings and welcome. Great to have you. 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. We're going to get to all the stuff today. We'll get to the campaign, Trump and Hillary. We'll get to Wiener and Huma and Apple and the European Union. By the way, how's that globalism working out for us? It seems like there's a lot of anti-Americanism in Europe right now. I mean, this woman that did that press conference announcing that Apple owes $15 billion loved it. She just loved putting the screws to an American company. So we'll get into that in great detail. I saw a movie last night that I really, really, really hope you get to see. I hope you take the time to see it. Open Friday. It's called Greater. But before I describe this movie to you, a little bit more on Kaepernick and developments since yesterday. There's a rookie linebacker for the Philadelphia Eagles named Mike Tavares. And on Monday, he said that yesterday he planned to join Kaepernick. Kaepernick's protest, refused to stand during the national anthem at upcoming games in the National Football League, and then within hours changed his mind. Now, I want to issue I don't know what you call this, a message. I just want to say something to you players of the National Football League. The American people love your sport, and the American people respect you who have the unique human ability to play it at the level you play it. But the American people are not going to sit by idly and watch the stage of the National Football League stolen and used for personal political purposes. Now, you players in the NFL, you can go ahead and try to continue stealing the stage of the NFL if you want. You can take the example of Kaepernick, and you can try to get some news coverage. You can draw attention to yourself, but you run the risk of obliterating the stage on which you perform that earns you your living and gives you the opportunity to succeed beyond your wildest dreams. You better be careful in what and how you express your thoughts on this country, greatest place in the history of mankind, and the residents of this country are among the luckiest in the history of all humanity. The National Football League is on TV. It can easily be turned off. The National Football League is sponsored by beer and cars and soft drinks that can easily be not purchased. Not that hard. Just turn it off. You better be especially careful because the opening weekend of the National Football League this year is the 15th anniversary of 9/11. Opening Sunday in the National Football League this year is September the 11th, the 15th anniversary. And if a number of you endeavor to try to steal the stage of the National Football League to call attention to a personal political issue, attention you could not get without stealing the stage of the National Football League, you run the risk of doing grave damage to the league and business in which you play and are paid. A business which depends on massive public love and support and attention and money. So you, I think, need to consider all of this responsibly and try to understand who your audience is and why they are watching. And understand that they tune in to 3 hours, 6 hours, 9 hours, however many hours on Sunday and Monday they watch, and now Thursday, to escape what they consider to be the stresses and the strains and the humdrum of their lives. They tune in to the National Football League for a little break from the hassles of life. They tune into the National Football League to forget all of these things that are causing controversy and divisiveness. They want to be entertained. We want to be entertained. We want to watch spectacular athleticism. We want to watch the drama of competition. We want to watch programming that has no script. Therefore, we have no ending until it actually ends. And you run the risk of destroying all that if you misplace your priorities. Now, what helped me bring this into greater focus last night? My friend Nick Searcy, well-known Hollywood actor, said, hey, I got a DVD screener I want to send you. New movie just came out. I have a little part in it. It's called Greater. And I said, Nick, I'd love to watch it, but you're going to have them caption it, or it's going to be a worthless endeavor for me. I literally cannot understand dialogue in a movie with all the other noise, the soundtrack and whatever other things are going on without subtitles or close. Don't worry, we'll take care of it. The guys are going to do it. They're going to do it. I said, cool. So I had never heard of the movie. I didn't know the story the movie's about. I didn't know anything about it. I received the movie on Saturday, and I had a chock-filled weekend, and I didn't get a chance to watch it. So Nick sends me a note yesterday. Did you see it? Did you see it? And I wrote, sorry, Nick. Haven't had time. Going to watch it tonight. So last night about 7 o'clock, I plugged the DVD screener. I inserted it into the tray, my DVD player. And lo and behold, there was no captioning. So I put it on pause and I wrote Nick. I said, look, there's no captioning file. And I'm going to watch it, Nick, because I watched the first 5 minutes of it. And I was already hooked. I was already intrigued. And I was really frustrated. I was turning the volume up as loud as a house could take it. I was rewinding in 10 and 15-second bits. I got up and I stood as close to the speakers as I could to try to make out the dialogue. And throughout the movie, I was only able to pick up, I'll bet you I didn't get 30% what was said. But I know this movie. I know everything in it. I know it. It was incredible. I tried 3 different DVD players, thinking, well, maybe one of them is not picking up the file. I tried every which way I could think to get the captioning file to display, but it didn't. So a movie with a little over a 2-hour runtime, I spent 4 hours last night watching, rewinding parts that I wanted to see again. The timing of this, compared to this Kaepernick folly. The story of Brandon Burlsworth. Brandon Burlsworth, who I'd never heard of, and I'm shocked that I had not heard of him. Born in Harrison, Arkansas. A chubby kid with a father that was not a factor in his life. Mother loved him dearly, had an older brother, a brother that many people thought was his father. Such was the age difference. Kid was really chubby. He sat on the sofa watching college football, eating chips and cheese. The family chided him, made fun of him. He would watch, I'm going to play there someday. I'm going to be a Razorback. I'm going to be on the Arkansas. Everybody laughed at him. Oh, really? Really, Brandon? You're going to be a Razorback? Hey, Pig Suey? Yep, that's going to be me someday. Pointing to TV. This kid had no connections. Harrison, Arkansas. His dad was not there. He literally had no connections. He had no money. There was no way he would ever attend any university unless he could acquire a scholarship. And there was no way he was going to get a scholarship because, well, as the coach who first saw him said, I don't know whether to put you on life support or send you down and get you outfitted for a uniform. He was so overweight. Because a coach had told him when he was 275, he was too small to play at Arkansas. So he started eating and got up to 330 and showed up and said, no, this is not what we had in mind. He was a walk-on, University of Arkansas. Today, his jersey is only the second jersey retired in the history of Arkansas football. His locker permanently ensconced in glass in the Razorback locker room. Here are the various awards and honors and foundations started because of his achievements. The Brandon Burlsworth Foundation. He died 11 days after being drafted by the Indianapolis Colts at age 22 in a traffic accident near his home on his way to Indianapolis. He was just an incredible story, incredible young man. The Brandon Burlsworth Foundation was established after his death by family and friends in honor of his work ethic and his Christian values. Then there's Burl's Kids. Provides underprivileged youth a chance to attend Arkansas Razorback and Indianapolis Colts football games. Eyes of a Champion. He lost a lot of his eyesight. Had to wear giant Coke bottle glasses underneath his helmet to play, and did. The Eyes of a Champion program was started in 2007, and that is a program in partnership with Walmart and Sam's Optical Department and the independent optometrists across Arkansas, providing eye care to thousands of pre-kindergarten through 12th grade students. There are Brandon Burlsworth football camps. He won numerous scholarships. There is the Burlsworth Award. He was a walk-on. He had no connections. He had no money. He shows up at Arkansas fulfilling a dream, sitting on the sofa at 8, watching Razorback football, saying, I'm going to be there someday. That's going to be me someday. He overcame insurmountable odds, seemingly insurmountable odds. He is the most famous walk-on success story in college football. And to this day, there is a national award given to the college football player who achieves the most as a walk-on every year. He was teased, he was ridiculed, he was bullied, he was laughed at, he was told he couldn't do it, and he never stopped smiling. The personality that Brandon Burlsworth had throughout all of this adversity, as portrayed in this movie, which, by the way, is a multi-year project. A lot of heart and soul has gone into the making of this movie. Neil McDonough is the lead actor, plays the brother, the much older brother. You know, the thing about this, folks, I mean, what this really is an incredible, genuinely incredible story about the values that you and I all hold dear, that we hold on to, that we to this day trust make the difference in success and failure, happiness and misery, hard work, perseverance, competition, leadership, faith. All of that takes place in this movie with SEC football as the backdrop, because this man's life was culminated with his success story at Arkansas. Now, the movie opened last Friday, and it is expanding with a bunch of theaters and screens. It was practically sold out Arkansas, and now it's expanding. And here's the thing. I mean, there are a lot of movies with these values. There are a lot of movies that try to capitalize on what the producers think are conservative values, and so they throw these conservative values into a story, make a movie of it, and think that conservative people of faith, are going to show up. There's not a single cliche in this movie. I mean, it's all real. And probably because it's based on an actual life. It is all genuine. There's not a single cliche. Now, I have to say, there was no captioning, and I missed some dialogue. There might be some. My point here is that there's nothing fake or phony, but this man existed. He was real. He was just completely unique. And I'm telling you, the chance that, I could have watched this thing on Saturday or Sunday and didn't. The fact that I didn't watch it till last night after this whole brouhaha with Colin Kaepernick and all of the people speaking, what a great, brave thing he's done. That's folly compared to the story of Brandon Burlsworth. Maybe the cliche is somebody taken way, way before their time. Why do bad things happen to good people? I mean, you can't help but be moved by this. It could have been cheesy. It isn't. It's inspiring. This is backbone of America. So when I describe on this program talking to you about the people who make this country work, it's things like this that I have in mind. People that come from places in the country you've not heard of, who are just out living and trying to do the best they can. No connections, no networking. Nobody knew anybody. Nobody in his family knew anybody to call at Arkansas. He had to earn every step of it. Now, he plugged away at it, almost didn't make it a couple of times. And you have to allow that. I may miss some of it because I didn't get all of the dialogue, so I can't for certain say he had no connections. My impression watching this and hearing what I was able to hear and the portrayal of the father make me pretty confident in saying that this story is all the result of perseverance. Yeah, I know. Got to take a break. Not to belittle connections, by the way. Don't misunderstand here. Back here in just a second. Name of the movie, the title of the movie is Greater. One word, Greater. I have to tell you, I watched the movie last night. I can't believe that I had not heard of Brandon Burlsworth or the story. You know me, I'm the most informed man in America. But I'm not a college football devotee, so that may be it. But I stopped short in listing some of the awards. There's the Brandon Burlsworth Award, given out yearly to a male or female at Harrison Haskell and the University of Arkansas. There's the Burlsworth Trophy, created in 2010, named in his honor. It's given yearly to the most outstanding Division I college football player who began his career as a walk-on. There are numerous foundations and charities associated with the not disabilities, but the challenges that Burlsworth had to overcome to succeed. Now, it wouldn't be what it is if all there was athletic achievement, which is phenomenal, but it was the kind of person he was. And by the way, person of faith, but they don't preach to you in the movie. I mean, it's not beaten into you. It's just portrayed as it was a part of his and his family's life. But it's genuinely inspirational. It is genuinely uplifting. And it provides such a contrast. The events of the movie take place in the 1997 to 1999 era. And it will, it'll give you hope that such values and so forth may one day dominate yet again. But it shows their value. And the fact that the young man was a uniquely special individual is why all of this has happened, not just the athletic success and achievement, which in itself was phenomenal given all the obstacles he had to overcome. So I just wanted to share this with you because the movie opened Friday, and it's they're hoping for a big Labor Day weekend, and they deserve it. It's really, really well done. Name of the movie is Greater. I'm going to take a brief time out now. We'll come back, and we will deftly swerve into the other news of the day. John Kerry, for example, served in Vietnam, saying that the media ought to stop covering terrorism so much. It would upset people less. Or something like that. I would love to see the eggs that Anthony Weiner hatched from. Does this guy not know? Does he have not the slightest idea how the internet works? After having been caught once, does he have no idea how nothing on the internet is private? If you listen to the drive-by media, the biggest scandal about the Huma Weiner and the Carlos Danger contretemps is that Trump is using it to question Hillary's judgment. Yeah, they're trying to build a wall around Huma Weiner. It's just unconscionable how Donald Trump would seek to exploit the pain and suffering of a couple in their private moments. Private moments? Private moments? We have a woman who is advising Hillary. By the way, folks, you should know something. I have it on the highest authority that there are people within the Hillary camp starting to get worried about Huma in terms of the advice that she's giving Hillary. People are looking at Huma's life, and a lot of it doesn't seem to make sense. And they're wondering, what in the hell is she advising Hillary to do? And in other words, there may be trouble in paradise. I do not know to what degree, and I don't know how serious it is. But there are people who are concerned about this. Then, of course, there are the national security implications. Now, what Trump tweeted yesterday was Huma Abedin, the top aide to Hillary Clinton and the wife of perv sleazebag Anthony Weiner, was a major security risk as a collector of information. And the drive-bys are having a fit. I mean, they're so irritated they're having a litter of kittens out there. Never mind, every word that Trump said is true. And they're worried, they're angry. How dare Trump do that? How dare Trump say it? Just like Trump's tweet about the murder rate in Chicago over the weekend. It kind of illustrates what telling the truth about a circumstance looks like now. How dangerous it is to tell the truth, and what it looks like when you do. We've had so many years where spin, buzz, and PR have substituted for reality that when anybody dares actually go there, it seems so odd, it seems so coarse, it seems so insensitive, it seems so, and yet, what Trump said is true. Huma Abedin holds the keys to the kingdom. That's why who Huma Abedin's mother is relevant, to the extent that Huma works with her mother, and that her mother is a big believer in Sharia. I mean, these are all legitimate questions. We're talking about electing the person president of the United States. I thought all vetting was required. Of course, we've learned that there's no such thing when it comes to Democrat candidates. We didn't vet Obama. The drive-bys did. We did. The drive-bys did not. And the same situation involving Hillary. Now, after all this, the woman that Carlos Danger was sexting in his latest escapades, a Trump supporter and even a staunch NRA supporter. But she could have just as easily been a KGB agent. And who knows who else Weiner has been interacting with, and who knows what their connections are. These are all legitimate concerns given who Huma advises. Blackmail, vulnerability, all of these things it'd be irresponsible not to consider this. How do we know, for example, that Carlos Danger wasn't duped into doing this in the first place? Blackmailed, because this doesn't make any sense. How stupid is this? You caught once doing this, humiliated, you lose your job. Because you're a Democrat, you're able to come back when you almost get elected mayor of New York. Then that blows up, and you revert to the same behavior that nearly destroyed your career the first time around. Who is that stupid? Or who is that arrogant? This is the kind of setup the KGB and other foreign intelligence agencies dream about. Even though Huma has cut the cord from Carlos Danger. This still has people's antenna raising. And then we have our Secretary of State, our esteemed Secretary of State, John Kerry, who once served in Vietnam. He said yesterday during an appearance in Bangladesh that the media could do us all a service if they didn't cover terrorism quite as much. Well, might be doing Obama and Hillary a service, which is probably why John Kerry said so. Maybe it is why the drive-bys have stopped covering terrorism as much as they used to. Kerry was speaking at a press availability. He said, no country is immune from terrorism. It's easy to terrorize. Government and law enforcement have to be correct 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. But if you decide one day that you're going to be a terrorist and you're willing to kill yourself, you can go out and kill some people. You can make some noise. Perhaps the media would do us all a service if they didn't cover it quite as much. People wouldn't know what's going on. Here you have a ranking member of the regime actually saying the people wouldn't know as much. What kind of government officials think that way? The people wouldn't know as much. What kind of Democrat, what kind of liberal dreams of that circumstance? The people wouldn't know as much. Seems like that's already happening when it comes to the media reporting on Hillary and her emails, or Hillary and the foundation, or Hillary and pay for play, or Obama and anything he did. It seems like the objective here was precisely that. The people wouldn't know what's going on. And precisely because of that, people do not have the ability to affix blame to this administration for the policies they have implemented that have caused the degradation of the American economy and the American culture. Because Obama is not attached to any of this. Obama is not tied to anything in the economy, except when they try to tout this great recovery going on. Of course, there isn't one. Kerry called these acts of violence and others worldwide a stark, painful reminder that those who aid terror groups or perpetrate these acts have no respect for national boundaries, no concern for the rights of others, no regard for the rule of law, and they do not embody the values of the people of Bangladesh or the U.S. or the majority of people across the globe. Wait a minute. No respect for national boundaries? That's the European Union. I said it was a European Union guy came out just the other day, Monday, maybe over the weekend. Said the worst thing that had ever happened is the creation of nations. That's what they think at the European Union. And now Kerry is talking about terrorist groups who perpetrate terror acts, who have no respect for national boundaries. Speaking of which, there's a story about Mrs. Clinton. Yes, this is interesting, too. Remember when Hillary, just saw the clock, quick time out, obscene profit break. Back in just a moment. Don't go away. How are you? Welcome back. Great to have you. I got a bunch of emails here. By the way, the new email address, lrushbo@eibnet.us. No longer .com. You said it there. It's going to end up in the ether. Nobody will ever see it. It'll have the equivalent of becoming invisible ink before it explodes out there. So use lrushbo@eibnet.us. I got a great email note here. Rush, you forgot something in your monologue about the NFL and Kaepernick. And the emailer is right. Let me read this to you. Listening to your analysis of potential jeopardy for the NFL if the players' socially conscious behavior ends up alienating fans and viewers. I know why, Rush, but what you didn't say is the NFL only has itself to blame. It was the NFL that sponsored their own Hispanic Week. It's the NFL that goes all pink in the month of October for breast cancer in order to make themselves look socially aware. And as you well know, Rush, as a sports expert, once you bring social consciousness to the field, where does it stop? Once you open that door and you are the NFL, how do you tell other people not to do it? Hands up, don't shoot from the St. Louis Rams. I can't breathe on T-shirts. Sitting out the national anthem. How long do you think it's going to be, Rush, before college and high school players start sitting out the anthem? What better way to become nationally known? Why, you can get the same kind of attention and fame that Colin Kaepernick is getting, and all you've got to do is sit on your butt during the national anthem. You nailed it as usual, Rushbo, but this is just the beginning, and the NFL itself opened the door. And I have to say that this guy has a point here. But it is the NFL, and it's their stage. Regardless, if this stuff keeps up, my point remains the same. People's tolerance for social issues is immense. People's emotional reservoirs, but there's a limit. And I'm telling you, people turn on the National Football League or watch any other thing on TV or sports to get away from whatever they may consider to be the humdrum of their life. They don't want to be preached to. It's the same reason why political statement movies bomb. It's not why people go to the movies. And I guarantee you people are not turning on TV to watch players, third string, about to be cut players, making an issue of disrespecting the national anthem in the country. That's not why they tune in. You're going to have some people, a percentage, wow, this is great, this is controversy, man, I wonder what's going to, you're going to have that. But people that watch the NFL for other reasons, who still love the country, and I trust that it's a greater number than 50% of Americans who still love the country, are not going to find a lot of tolerance for this. And then the more the social activists pipe up and start talking about how brilliant these protests are and how we ought to sit back and pay attention and we better listen and we better notice and we better understand and we better understand why people hate this country. We better get with it fast. We better understand why, and we better be ready to accept whatever demands they make to change this country. That's fine and dandy, but not on Sunday afternoon. It's too easy to turn a TV off. It's too easy not to buy the latest beer or soft drink. Too easy not to go out and buy sports jerseys and paraphernalia and that kind of thing. And it's really very easy to say, you know what? I'm not going to put up with the trek to the stadium and the traffic and all that. So I just think everybody ought to be careful. It's the way the European Union is looking at Apple. The European Union is nothing but a bunch of takers. The European Union wouldn't know how to produce diddly squat. So Apple is the golden goose. And they're taking as many eggs from the golden goose as they can because they're out of money. All these brilliant socialist Democrats in Western Europe, all these elites, these pointy-headed intellectuals, our so-called betters, can't manage anything, and they have been out of money for years. They don't know how to budget. They don't know how to behave responsibly. So here comes Apple, and it's a big pile of money, and they can go get it, and Apple's just the first. And the interesting thing about this is that who's Tim Cook sidle up to? Very people who want to do this to his company. You know what else is interesting about this? This babe over there, her name is Marguerite. What's her last name? Marguerite something. She just tore in. Grab soundbite number, sorry for the paper rattling, number 24. Marguerite Vestager, or Vestager, or Vestager. I don't know how she pronounces it. But this was this morning in Brussels during the press conference she had.
Our decision concludes that splitting the profits did not have any...
Hold it a minute. Hold it. This is even better than I thought it was going to be. Our decision concludes that splitting the profits did not have any effects. Oh, man, this is just too perfect. Hear it again.
Our decision concludes that splitting the profits did not have any factual or economic justification. The so-called head office had no employees, no premises, no real activities. The so-called head office was attributed almost all of the company's profits. The second company, Apple Operations Europe, makes certain Apple computers in Ireland. Under the same two tax rulings, the majority of its profit was also artificially attributed to a so-called head office that only existed on paper and whose profits were not taxed.
Look, I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm just telling you that Apple set themselves up according to Irish law. So they set themselves up according to Irish law. Look, folks, you can have one or the other, but you can't have both. You can either have confiscatory taxation like this or you can have jobs. The problem with leftists is they think you can do both. They think they can tax the golden goose as often and as highly as they want, and that the golden goose is going to keep producing. Because they've never been in that sector of life where the golden goose lives. All they are is a bunch of takers. A bunch of people in government with power to take. But you put on them the responsibility for innovation, creation, productivity, invention, and you've got nothing because they are clueless. So they come along and they start demanding all of this, and then they start demanding jobs. And you have to choose one or the other: confiscatory taxation or jobs. What do you want? But there's another aspect of this that isn't being reported, and that is the anti-Americanism of this. The EU, all this globalism, Obama and his cronies trying to tell us that globalism is the future and that the U.S. was going to be once again loved and respected once Obama was there and George W. Bush was jettisoned. And now this woman delighted in screwing the screws tighter to an American corporation. And the U.S. and Obama did everything to try to stop her from doing it, and she relished it all the more. Okay, we've got a good roster of calls coming up, folks, and I've got some news I have to pass on. It's not going to make anybody happy. It doesn't make me happy. They're forcing me to take the 3 days of this week off, the last three. They're forcing me to do it. My broadcast partners, because they're afraid of burnout. I said, I could pretend I'm suspending myself, but I got nothing to suspend myself for. So, greetings to you, music lovers, thrill seekers, conversationalists all across the fruited plain. You are tuned to the most listened to radio talk show in America. You are tuned to the most talked about host, the most listened to radio talk show in America. Great to have you here. 800-282-2882 if you want to send an email. We have a new email address, lrushbo@eibnet.us. Now, I may slip up. For years I've been giving out the old address. It's almost a syllabic memory rather than... And I may screw up and give out the old address. If you hear me give out the old address, it's not changed. The old address is gone. I probably have, and I'm not even aware of it. I've slipped up a couple times. But the new address is lrushbo@eibnet.us. Okay, to the audio sound bites we go. Oh, yeah. You're right. Folks, I'm not going to be here Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. In addition to Labor Day, we have our Best Of show on Labor Day. Normally, my summer schedule is to take a week in June and a couple of weeks in August, and I have not done that. I think 4 or 5 days in June. And so broadcast partners came and said, you take some time, will you? I mean, we don't want you burning out. We've got the election coming up. It's going to be intense. So I have been forced out of the air chair here Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And I thought, this is embarrassing to have to say this. So I thought about suspending myself. And then I said, okay, what have I done that I could suspend myself for? And I couldn't come up with anything. I thought it would have been hilarious to suspend myself. I used to suspend Snerdley for 45 minutes or an hour. if he was getting mad and cursing callers. But he's been on his best behavior for the past bunch of years, so there haven't been any real suspensions here. Well, at least as far as I know, he's been on. They're all laughing in there. But I'll tell you one thing we're going to do. This movie that I talked about an hour ago in the opening monologue of the program, the movie Greater, I really hope as many of you who have a chance to see it do so. I don't want to overdo it. I mean, I don't want to build up expectations to the point that you watch it and are disappointed. So I'm just going to stop. I'm just telling you that it is it's just beautiful, and it is so timely, and it is so inspirational. And it just makes you wish that the values and the behavior and the quest for excellence and greatness was dominant in our culture. And it may still be, it just isn't covered. But it's just heartwarming. You'll have every emotion. You'll go through every emotion, the gamut. But what I think we're going to do tomorrow, we're going to get Neil McDonough, who is the star, the male lead. He was in Justified. He's in Suits right now. He's a great actor, and he plays the older brother of Brandon Burlsworth in the movie. And then the actual brother. And I think Buck Sexton, our guest host tomorrow, Buck from the CIA, is going to have them on to discuss the movie from their perspective. Even better. Snerdley is setting that up. We don't do this much. We don't have bookers and guests. Well, unless the guest hosts do that, which I, of course, am not ever told about. But Snerdley is putting that together. So when we get that ironed out, I'll make sure that you know when that happens. McDonough was executive producer of the movies. He wasn't just an actor taking the role. I think he's got a lot of... he's into it. I mean, the movie, I think, is something he wanted to be part of. Now we go to the audio soundbites. Once again, your host being used as material for other guests to react to and bounce off of. Fox News this morning, the America's Newsroom show, Martha McCallum, played a couple clips of me from yesterday on the Colin Kaepernick caper, and she had a couple of guests and their reaction. Here's how it started.
Rush Limbaugh unloaded on all of that yesterday. Here he is.
It's ironic that we have now a quarterback who was adopted and raised by a white family, who was scouted and signed by white scouts, was employed by white owners, the National Football League, decides now to steal the stage of the National Football League to make personal statements during the week he is about to be cut.
Wow, Rush was clearly fired up in that statement. He obviously follows the NFL extremely closely, and he is very unhappy with what Kaepernick's doing.
So they went to Julie Rogensky. She is one of the Fox analysts from the left, and she was asked, Julie, what do you think of all this?
I stand up for the national anthem because I believe in this country and I believe in what the anthem stands for. If you don't, then don't be a hypocrite. I get it. Don't stand up for the anthem if that's what you feel. And, I may not agree with him, but I'll defend to the death his right to do what he wants to do, which is a free speech issue. If he doesn't want to stand up for the anthem, don't be a hypocrite.
Martha McCallum next said, it seems if you will protest, you should stand up for the anthem. You should be saying, I live in a country that allows me to speak my mind, and I'm glad that I live in one of the countries in the world where I can pledge allegiance to my flag. And then in an interview in the locker room, I can say what I think about what's going on in my country currently.
I do agree with Rush Limbaugh. I also think there is significant political correctness within the NFL. Think about when the players in Dallas wanted to honor the slain police officers with a decal on their helmets, and they were denied that right to do so. There is a huge dynamic here, and I think the NFL really needs to impose a code of policy, code of conduct for the players to stand for the national anthem.
That is an interesting point. I've heard a bunch of coaches, and coaches have a really, really fine line they have to walk here. They need their players. The coaches are nothing without the players performing, and they know it. The league needs the players. I mean, nobody's going to pay to watch the owners have meetings about anything. The players are it. And that puts a responsibility on the players' shoulders. I mean, they are the product. And you've got to be very careful how you present that product when it's... But see, the league has its own culpability here. The league opened the door to all of this stuff, you could say. National Hispanic Week, National Hispanic Month, and go all pink in the month of October for breast cancer support to show that, think about that. That's marketing. That's marketing disguised as a social conscience, but it's marketing. They're trying to appeal to women. It's kind of base in its approach. And I don't know how effective it is in converting women to the NFL. They would know. I don't. It obviously works. They keep doing it. Anyway, they've opened the door to this. And when I hear coaches, the coaches tell these players what they can and can't do all the time. The league does too. The league has all kinds of rules. In fact, folks, I have to tell you, the National Football League, you can't read about it anymore without reading about suspensions, violations of this policy, violations of that policy. Sports reporting in the National Football League has changed dramatically. The coverage is not exclusively about the athleticism of the game, what happens on the field, training camp, or what have you. It's now a police blotter, in addition to all of that. And what's screwy about it is the media seems to relish this aspect. The media relishes when players get suspended. The media relishes all this. It's the oddest thing. So many people who depend on the success of this league for their living, for their reason to exist, for their financial wherewithal, whatever, and all the people engaged in in activity which could lead to real harm. It's the most amazing thing to me to watch certain aspects of this. But then the coach, Kaepernick stands up or sits down and then says what he says, and I go to the coach. Well, I can't tell a kid what to do. I can't tell a kid what to say. Freedom of speech, not for me to say. Well, it is in every other aspect of the kid's life. You tell him what time he's got to be in bed. On road trips and during training camp, the league has all kinds of rules of what these guys can't eat or drink. And boy, you better pray you don't go out and get a weight loss product that's got a banned substance in it as a tiny little ingredient. You can be suspended for 4 games, not even knowing what you did. And they've got all kinds of rules that players have to abide by, or they can face suspension and fines. But when it comes to this, protesting America, well, nothing I can do. No, I can't say a word. Nothing I can do about it. Players. That doesn't wash with me. Coaches are authoritarians. Not so much at the pro level, but you get into college and high school and younger, the coaches are dictators. Permissibly so. Maintaining order. Team unity, the organizational concept of everything. That nobody's bigger than the team. But just to ensure, showing up. Tom Coughlin had a rule, former coach of the Giants. If you had a 9 a.m. meeting, if the team meetings were at 9 a.m., they actually started at 8:55. If you showed up at 9 a.m., you were 5 minutes late and got fined. So a coach can do that, but I can't tell a kid what to do. I can't tell a kid, not my right to tell a kid what his rights are. And now we're off in this tangential discussion of rights. People talking about rights, not even knowing what they are or where they come from. I've got a right to do this, dude. I'm going to pay my dues, man. You don't even know what you're talking about. But everybody, I'm not going to infringe anybody's rights. If somebody thinks he's got a right to go out and sit on his ass on the national anthem, not for me to say he doesn't. No way. I don't want to get anywhere near it. So standing up for the country, nobody wants to go there. Well, I shouldn't say nobody. Look, there's some players that get a Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice. All lives matter, and Kaepernick should stand for the anthem. Jerry Rice, one of the greatest San Francisco 49ers ever. All lives matter. And Jerry Rice is not, let's just say it's big for Jerry Rice to say that. He's not alone. But the media is trying to encourage other players to follow in Kaepernick's footsteps because it'd be controversial, it'd be cool, it'd be standing up to authority, it'd be all the things they supposedly like. Julie Roginski was back. This Cowboy situation, classic example. A point I made yesterday, and they played this tape on Fox, too. Here you have the St. Louis Rams can run out on the field and with their hands up, don't shoot, when it never happened. It never happened. Hands up, don't shoot is a total lie. Then the T-shirts that players are wearing. I can't breathe, which is a misinformation piece on the death of Eric Garner. This is the kid in New York City that was selling black market cigarettes because the tobacco tax in New York is so high that the black market for cigarettes is thriving. A guy can make a living doing it. So for some reason, the cops were called where he was, and they had to subdue him with a chokehold. They put him in an ambulance. He had a heart attack on the way to the hospital. The media reported cops killed him with a chokehold. Didn't happen. The story was that he was shouting, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. Cops killed him, chokehold. Didn't happen. Had a heart attack. Rush, well, maybe the chokehold led to the heart attack. No, didn't happen. That's not what. Anyway. So the players can do that. They can hands up, don't shoot. They can sit down during the anthem. They can wear these I can't breathe T-shirts. But the Dallas Cowboys asked if they could put a decal on their helmets this season honoring 5 Dallas police officers who were murdered. And the league said no. Nope, you can't do it. Why? Why? Is that too provocative? Is the league says, no, if we honor cops, we're going to have problems. Where are you going to have problems? Where are you going to have problems if you honor the cops? How in the world could that lead to problems? I'm asking rhetorically, of course. We all know the answer. But it's sad, folks. It's sick, and it is sad. Martha McCallum played that clip of me saying that, went back to Julie Roginski.
I can't believe I'm saying Rush Limbaugh is right about that. If the NFL is going to have a policy of allowing people to honor one component and not another, that's wrong. The NFL should have a consistent policy. The anthem to me is a little different, though. The anthem to me is a very personal thing. And if you believe in what the anthem stands for, as we do, we stand for the anthem. If you don't, why be a hypocrite? Don't stand.
Got to take a break, folks, before they start yelling at me about that. So don't. Okay, El Rushmo. Meeting and surpassing all audience expectations every day. To the phones, we go to Lissa in St. Louis. Welcome, great to have you here. Hi.
Hi, thanks so much. Listen, I'm not a feminist, but I am a woman, and I am a never Hillary person. In fact, I'm a subset of that, which is that I will crawl on my hands and knees over broken glass to vote against her. But God forbid she wins. She is going to set women back by ages and ages because
How?
all of this stuff is going to come out. And all of the stereotypical stuff that people say about women, she's conniving, she's deceitful. Here we had the first woman president, and it turns out she was, some Lady Macbeth, power-hungry, deceitful, conniving, lying, cheating.
What do you mean that's all going to come out? We already know all that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And so, but I think the evidence, which truly proves it to the majority of people, where the media is not going to be able to cover it up. I mean, I think that the real dirt is there. And
give me an example of what you're talking about when you say the real dirt that the media won't be able to cover up. What kind of things are you thinking about?
When they find out that there really was a pay-for-play, where there really was money exchange.
Oh, okay.
Where she personally financially benefited from deals that were made through the State Department.
Right, and then the bimbo eruptions, the actual feminist act of destroying the women her husband had abused.
Absolutely.
Well, but why is that stuff not going to come out before the election? How is it going to come out afterwards? What's going to enable that to happen?
Because I think that the American media, now maybe the Clintons have been so immune. It's like they got vaccinated decades ago. But most of the time, the American media wants to take you down. I mean, I've learned that from you. The American media, they build you up, and then they take you down.
They love, yes.
And there's going to be somebody. In other words, all it takes is one or two media people, reporters that say, this is too big. This is too big for me to just not cover it. Cover it up.
This is. I'm fan. You think that there would be enough anti-Hillary sentiment in the drive-by media to, after they safely get her elected, then turn on her, as they do on almost all successful people, and what they build up, try to take down. I think there are exceptions to that, though, and I think the Clintons are such an exception. I don't think the Clintons, to this day, I mean, all this stuff that you've talked about just now is widely known by the media. They could have taken her out any time they wanted. And in 2008, you could say that they did in favor of Obama.
Right. They did. So
my hope would be that this stuff, some of it, enough of it would surface before the election that it would matter. But there's something else that drives all this, that is part and parcel of it. And that is that Republican branding is so damaged that even if you gin up a bunch of anti-Hillary sentiment, that does not automatically mean people angry enough at Hillary not to vote for her will vote Republican. That's still a big mountain to climb for a lot of people who've been misinformed for years. Got to get back to the phones here in just a second. But since we were discussing Hillary with the last caller, there's a point that I wanted to know. You remember at her, I think it was the Democrat Party convention, her acceptance speech, when she came out with this proposal to invest in infrastructure and our roads and bridges, and she had this specific figure attached to it, like $250 or $300 billion. And you remember the reaction that we all had. Wait a minute, been there, done that. We all started saying to each other, why don't people remember Obama promised? He did. $800 billion. Infrastructure, roads, bridges, schools, none of it has happened. Here comes Hillary proposing the same thing. And we ask ourselves, why don't people catch this stuff? Why don't they catch it on their own? We don't know that they don't. It just doesn't seem that this kind of hypocrisy ever attaches itself to Democrats. Well, get this from the Cybercast News Service. When Hillary says that she's going to spend money on infrastructure, that's just half the story. Because the Obama White House may designate certain state voting systems as pieces of critical infrastructure, quote unquote, which would give federal technology experts more of a role in assisting the administrators of those networks as they deter intrusions. Josh Earnest, the White House spokesman, said this yesterday. So, they're going to turn state voting systems, the machines, the networks, the whole shebang, they're going to try to redesignate that stuff as critical infrastructure. And so now when Hillary starts talking about appropriating hundreds of billions of dollars for infrastructure, she can now include the federal government messing around in state election systems, voting systems. Josh Earnest said, yeah, that's something being discussed by senior members of the president's national security team. According to a Reuters report, U.S. intelligence officials are worried that hackers, sponsored by Russia or other countries, may attempt to disrupt the presidential election. The FBI is asking states to boost the security of their voting systems. And as part of that upgrade, the federal government will now classify voting systems as infrastructure. Well, once you let the feds get their money hands in on state voting, oh my gosh, they just don't stop. They're just trying to infiltrate and swallow and surround as much as they can. Here's Cheryl in Wilmington, North Carolina. She was on hold for most of the program yesterday. We ran out of time, so she graciously gave us her number. We called her back. How are you doing? And I appreciate your patience here.
I'm doing great. First-time caller, very long-time listener, and thank God every day that you're still out there being able to do what you do, Rush.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that more than you know.
Well, I'm going to try to be brief, but I know I've only got one shot at this probably, so I do not believe anything in the media. I observe it at a distance and judge it, and I was taken back in the last election with Romney. Really surprised that it didn't come out the way I thought it would. But this time around, I'm really looking at, the details. I'm backing up and gauging things and people around me in a different perspective, and myself as well. And there is a difference this time around with the people that I talk to, the things that they say. It really surprises me that they're actually coming out and being so blunt with me as they are, and that their concerns are exactly mine. It's so crazy about how resonant it is when you talk to somebody who ends up being a Trump supporter. Might not have been the first choice in the world, but it is what it is. And these things that the media pick on with Trump and what he says and trying to say things about flip-flopping with this immigration issue and these other policies, they are just nitpicking at his words. And to me, it displays nothing but a lack of common sense. Some of the things that I hear these media people say, and you had a caller on yesterday who made that comment, he's going to lose his base, flip-flopping. It only takes common sense to read between the lines. And the big deal is this.
Well, now, wait. Let's go back to that caller, because the caller was in part chiding me and in part chiding Fox News, because his specific complaint was that during the fall campaign, Trump kept assuring people that illegal immigrants were going to be rounded up and deported. He kept saying, they got to go. They got to go. They got to go back. And all the other candidates were out saying, it ain't going to happen. We're not going to round up 11 million. I'm not going to do it. I'm telling you the truth, and he's not. And now that, and then so Trump goes on to get the nomination. Now that the media is reporting Trump is flip-flopping on this and may not send him back, that guy called yesterday. He was livid that some in the media, including me, didn't call Trump out on it at the time. And you're calling that I'm not arguing with you. I'm recasting what this guy said so people know what you're referring to. And you're saying that that's nitpicking, that that's not the point, whether Trump's going to deport him or not. That has nothing to do with why you support him, right?
And you answered it, Rush. You said they don't care. And that is so true. Those are minor details to the majority of people who are supporting Trump. And it's the same thing with the tax return thing. I do not care what is in Donald Trump's tax return. Do you know why? Because he's not a career politician. He made his money in the private sector doing something else, and I don't care where his money came from or what his tax return says. If he were a career politician, I would say that it is required. But I just don't feel like it is a big deal.
See, I have tried, and I'm sure you've heard this if you're a regular listener, I've tried all last fall to explain to people why people like you and others support Trump and why you're not going to abandon him. I got blue in the face trying to explain it.
I know you have. And there is an energy here, Rush. They had I didn't go to it. I actually drove around. He had a little rally here a couple weeks ago, and I thought, well, I'm going to go drive around in the building and look at it. And the energy and the spirit you can just feel the electricity. You can see the people looking at each other this is the thousands that were outside of the building that never got in, that stayed there. Now, this may be isolated. You made some remarks the other day. I was listening, saying that the same thing happened when Romney had his election. And that may be very true, but I did not see or feel or hear the energy or the excitement that I did.
The Romney excitement was in the last week. It was not throughout. It was just the last week, and it was predominantly in Colorado, actually, if you want to get specific. But let me go back to one of the things that I've tried to explain to the media and the political professionals of many years. And it's tough for them to get outside the bubble that they live in. I mean, to them, politics is it's a science, and it is a behavioral system, and there are certain things, there are rules. And if you flip-flop on an issue, you're dead. You can't survive. And if it's your
you're a politician.
And if it's your number one issue, oh, my God, you're finished. You're over with. And they thought that's what Trump was doing when they thought he was flip-flopping on deporting 11 million people.
Right.
And
there's so many details.
Well,
go ahead.
Because
there are so many details surrounding something like that. There is no way on God's green earth, especially when you have experience from a business perspective, that you're going to approach something like that ahead of the election and say, this is how it's going to happen. It's just not going to happen. You've got to go as you're approaching it.
That's right. And my effort has been to try to explain to them why that Trump is immune from this traditional way of analyzing the fates and fortunes of candidates. You even had the guy, and he was a nice guy. He was just frustrated. The guy who called yesterday, he was upset that he's not a political professional. He's a voter, but he thinks Trump should pay a price for the flip-flopping because he misled you. He misled all the supporters, and he was mad at me for helping Trump mislead you. And my realization all along has been that you support Trump for primarily one reason, and there are trees that come off of this one branch here, but there's the primary reason that Trump is supported. And it's tough to nail one because there are actually many, but the primary thing is he's not one of them. He is a genuine outsider. He's not a Washington politician claiming to be an outsider. He really is. And he's genuine enough to confirm that each and every appearance, each and every time he's on television. So he's not going to be held to the standard that other politicians are held to in that sense by people like you, because you trust that the big picture, that Donald Trump is going to make America great again. He's going to reorder things in such a way.
Not even that, Rush. Here's the bottom line that I feel with this thing, with these never-Trumpers and people who are freaking out, I can't vote for him, I can't vote for him. Here is the bottom line. We are in dire straits here. We are sitting here on the cusp of something that's going to go one way or another. And even if he gets in there and makes things temporarily worse than they already are, at least we've got somebody there that is talking about putting a screeching halt on some of these things that if it goes the other way may never, ever be able to be corrected or reversed. That is the issue here.
Okay, good. That's the
bottom line. I mean,
we have reached the last moment to save America as we've known it in your mind. And Trump represents that. And therefore, you're not going to abandon him. Did you hear what she just said, folks? Trump could, if he gets elected, he could actually do some things that make it worse for a while. That's okay, too. That's okay, as long as it isn't Hillary. As long as it isn't the same bunch of people from the same crowd of people that got us in this mess, that screwed up the college education, that screwed up the student loan business, that screwed up the economy, that screwed up everything. As long as it's not one of those, there's going to be tolerance and acceptance. But meanwhile, the political professionals are all analyzing this like gamblers analyze the point spread of a football game. Looking at the injury report, they get down deep in here and what this means, and every poll is analyzed like it's the last poll, and what does it mean? And none of that matters to a Trump supporter. This I have instinctively known since day one. Now all of these wizards of smart. Well, look, I have to take a break. But Cheryl, I appreciate the call. Very articulate. If you never get back in again, you can always count on the fact you did a bang-up job here. You made the most of your one chance. Although I think you'll probably get back. The odds are in favor of it. Sticking with the phones, we have a 9-year-old on the phone from Cherryfield, Maine. This is Riley. Riley, thank you for calling. It's really great to have you on the program today.
It's great for me because I've been waiting all summer for someone to pick up, and today I got lucky. And
you've been waiting all summer to get through to the program?
All summer and almost all winter.
Wow. And you're 9 years old. What did you want to get through to do? What did you want to say?
I wanted to tell you how great you are, and you're the smartest person I know, and if you taught me in school, I would even want to go to school on weekends.
You meaning you want to learn?
Yeah.
You just want to acquire knowledge. You want to learn so much so that you'll be willing to go to school.
Especially with you, because you're the smartest man I know.
It's 9 years old. Oh, that's amazing, Riley. I'm speechless. I don't know. I don't know what. How many people do you know?
A lot.
Oh man, this is incredible. Well, what do you like learning the most?
I like math the most.
Math. You know, we talk about math a lot here in related ways. We do. Well, do you know, you're 9 years old. Do you know yet what you want to do? Has that occurred to you, or are you just open-minded? And
I want to be in the military, and I'm already a farmer.
You're already a farmer, and you want to be in the military.
In the military.
9 years old. So what grade does that put you in? Second, third grade?
I'm going into fourth.
Going into fourth grade, yeah. Well, let me see. Riley, I assume I'm just going to ask you, have you read the Rush Revere?
I'm reading it. Not right now.
Which one?
I've been reading it.
Which one are you reading?
The first one.
Rush Revere and the Brave Pilgrims.
Yep, and the Brave Pilgrims.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what. If you'll hang on here, Mr. Snerdley will get your address up there in Cherryfield, Maine, and I want to send you a gift package of stuff from us here at the EIB network as a measure of thanks to you and your parents for giving this program and what we do here so much of your time and attention. And I can't tell you, Riley, how gratifying it is that you find it worthwhile. And I'm extremely appreciative of your compliments and your kind words to me. And I hope that you continue this desire to learn. I didn't get it until I quit school, strangely enough. And I really was not overcome with the realization that I was going to have to acquire knowledge until I quit. I didn't like school at all. And so if you've got this fever for learning at 9, there's no stopping you. I hope that keeps up for you.
For me, too.
You know, it will. It will. You just keep the phone on hold here. Don't hang up so we can get your address to send you the goodie package. That's 9-year-old Riley in Cherryfield, Maine. And we will be right back. Don't go away. Yep, that lesbian farmer story is still alive out there. Lesbian farmer stand. You know, it's classic. It's a Washington Free Beacon story. So I see it, and I report it. repeat it. Actually, repeat it. And I add some unique commentary to it. And it gets a life of its own. The New York Daily News, at New York Magazine, The Advocate, Conan O'Brien. And it's still percolating out there, the lesbian farmer story. This is where the USDA is offering financial grants to lesbians to become farm babes. Who knew? The views expressed by the host on this program, documented to be almost always right, 99.9% of the time. It is great to be with you, folks, as it always is. The telephone number, if you want to be on the program, 800-282-2882, and an email. You can send an email. New email address, lrushbo@eibnet.us. lrushbo@eibnet.us. A new domain. Just one more thing on the Apple story. This thing will be tied up for years with the appeals and everything. There's one reason Apple has so much money in Europe. You know what Apple's cash pile is right now? It's $231 billion and climbing. And that's, I mean, it's profit, yeah, but that's how much they've made that they have not reinvested, and their R&D budget is huge. It's just a phenomenal pile of money. You know how much of that $231 billion is being held overseas? About $210 billion of it. It is striking. Maybe $20 billion, if I read that right this morning, $20 billion of Apple's $231 billion is in the United States. Meaning, when they say cash, it's not all greenbacks in the bank. This means it's invested in various assets, stocks, bonds, like anybody else would invest. It's fairly liquid. But you know why $220 billion of it is overseas? It's not strictly because Apple is a global corporation. It's because of the U.S. tax rate. United States has the highest business tax rate in the world, 35%. So Apple received favorable tax proposals from European countries, including Holland and Ireland, because they wanted jobs. They wanted an economic boost, and they offered Apple attractive tax packages, which is common. I mean, how many of you have heard of the state of New York exempting taxes for whatever business that they want to invest in the state, open in the state, build factories in the state? This happens all the time, so it's nothing unfair about it. It's nothing unusual. It's the way markets work. And if there are confiscatory tax rates in play, you can guarantee that smart money people are going to do everything they can to avoid them. And it isn't irresponsible. I mean, you can make the argument Apple has the duty to shareholders to maximize profits so as to maximize stock price and dividends if they pay it. All that, of course, is true. But it just makes sense anyway. It's Apple's money. It isn't the European Union's money. It's not Barack Obama's money or John Kerry's or Hillary Clinton's. It's Apple's. But if you're Elizabeth Warren, you come along and say, you didn't build that. You didn't build that iPhone. We made that possible for you. All that rot gut rigmarole. So the European Union is like any other massively bloated, overweight bureaucracy. It's out of money. They can't manage their own finances. They have the ability to take money from anybody, anywhere, anytime. It's called taxes and fees and taxes and fees and user fees and who the hell knows what all mechanisms. And even at that, they're broke. And it's typical. The people who do not work and who have nothing to do with the production of the money they have have no appreciation for how it was acquired. If you can get money by taking it from other people, you're going to think you can always get money by taking it from other people. And if you have a lot of money and you've never earned it, guaranteed you are never going to appreciate the value of that money. And that's government for you. Government confiscates wealth. Government does not create wealth. Pure and simple. Wait a minute, Rush, what about defense contracts? Well, the government's not doing the work. And it's taxpayer money to begin with. It isn't government money. Government doesn't produce jack. All government does is get in the way. Government could do much more than they do by getting out of the way. There could be even more wealth. Apple could have even more money. Well, anyway, the United States government would love some Apple's money, but not enough to alter the tax rate. So 35% is what it is, and Apple's going to keep their money overseas. And they have arranged for all of their sales to be recorded. They've got an office, I think, in Reno, and they've arranged for most of their sales to be recorded in Ireland. And people say, wait, they don't make anything in Ireland. Yeah, I know. The actual assembly process is in China, but their supply chain is worldwide. Most people don't ever, and there's no reason they would, most people never stop to think. Just take an iPhone or take any smartphone. I don't care if it's Samsung's or anybody. What goes into making that phone a reality is beyond most people's comprehension. Apple's supply chain is massive. It is intricate. And it is one of the most well-oiled machines in and of itself in all of American corporate life. They've got it down pat. When Apple is on a roll, you know how often they turn over their inventory? I'm talking about everything. iPhones, iPads, Macintosh computers, whatever. When Apple is humming, they turn over their inventory every 8 days. Stop and think of that worldwide. To have your manufacturing down so that you're not saddled with a big bunch of inventory you're holding on to, which just drags down everything. It slows manufacturing. That slows everything in the supply chain. It slows down the profitability of all your suppliers. To be able to have your manufacturing such that you are able to turn total inventory over 5 to 8 days in a global circumstance, it's just phenomenal. And for these governments to come along and try to claim that Apple's cheating here and cheating there, it's typical. Anyway, what has to happen, Apple's going to appeal this, so they have to put the money, it's about 13 billion euros, translates to $15 billion. They have to put the money in escrow. Some of that $15 billion is interest and penalties on the original base amount that the fine is. So Apple will appeal, and it goes on. It's going to be years before this is solved. It's not going to have any immediate impact on the Apple stock price. It's just government doing what government does, particularly these clowns of the European Union, which are just inept. Who are just inept. Well, anyway, I was reading my tech blogs about this today. And the tech blogs are young, millennial, and younger journalists. And I want to read to you just one excerpt from one of them. I mean, I could probably find this thinking in all of them. Apple likes to present itself as a friendly, open company that is on the side of consumers. Yet here it is, arguing that its complex financial arrangements, which serve to dramatically reduce its overseas tax bills, are justified. It does this at a time when the public mood is very much against such maneuvering. Oh, okay, so the public mood is against responsible fiscal behavior. So what should Apple do? Well, given that Apple isn't short of cash by any stretch, why doesn't Apple just take the moral high road and voluntarily pay the taxes it really believes should be due. You see, this is what we're up against, dealing with millennials. So now it's a moral issue. Apple has lots of money. The way they arrange their finances is very complex. It's bad PR to scrap and fight over every dollar. Apple should just pay up. It'd be a great PR move. Apple's customers, and we, of course, in the tech media, we would love Apple. Not. Because, of course, giving government money, why, that is the supreme definition of morality, don't you see? Apple should just figure out what it owes morally and pay that, whatever the real tax bill is. Isn't that instructive? Doesn't that tell us a lot? So, Apple, as a PR move, should not argue this. They should not even dispute it. They should just pay up and maybe even pay a little more than they owe. And get great PR benefits as a result. Does anybody think that's what would happen? What do you think would happen, Mr. Snerdley, if Apple followed this advice and issued a press release today by Tim Cook, the CEO? Hi, I'm Tim Cook, CEO of Apple. We have just been told by the European Union that we have underpaid our taxes by $15 billion. We dispute this, but because we want our customers to think we are moral people, we're going to actually give them $20 billion. By the way, our new iPhones come out next week, and we really hope you snap them up. What would be the practical result of Apple publicly announcing they're going to pay either exactly what they owe with no dispute or adding to it for the... Right. Well, that's true. The next thing to happen would be every tin-horn government, dictator, and bloated bureaucracy in the world would be lining up, demanding that Apple exercise its morality with them. And then what would they say Apple should do? It should pay it. It should pay what these governments say. That's the only way to have good PR and buzz. It's just, they should do it. They've got so much money. They got more than they need. They've got, look at that cash hoard Apple has. They don't need all of that. I guess there's really nothing new in that kind of thinking about wealth and so forth. What is missing, however, is the acknowledgement or the appreciation for what it took to create that wealth. And this is what, sadly, is often missing. People see the wealth. They don't have any idea what went into creating it. And if a corporation's involved, they might even think it's all because of cheating, lying, maybe even killing their customers, like Big Pharma does and Big Drug does and Big Oil. But I doubt in the real world it's not going to have much of an impact on you. But it's an interesting exercise, instructive in taxation and bureaucracy and government, and how government behaves. And they're out of money. And it's not just the European Union. There isn't a government in the world that's in the black. And they're going to go look for money wherever they can get it. If it's your pension fund that your money's in, if it's a 401k, if it's a hedge fund, don't put it past them. In dire straits, government can do it. Look, do you hear what happened at Sweden? Did I mention this? In Sweden, where they have been overrun by quote-unquote refugees from Syria and other places. They've run out of places to house them where the refugees will accept. The refugees are refusing to accept the housing Sweden is providing. So you know what Sweden did? They went to the wealthy who have second homes, and they basically confiscated them. Said, look, wealthy people, you're only using that big house 6 weeks a year. Well, we're taking it, and we're going to house the refugees in there for a while. They just announced they were going to do it. There is nothing stopping these people, especially if nobody stands up and opposes it. And it's eventually going to work its way down to everybody. So great story, great. It's actually a column or an editorial here in the Investors Business Daily. Have to take a break coming up here, but this is interesting. It's a piece about what we face in our future with so many men unemployed, so many men out of work. What are the generational meanings and indications of this? And it's pretty fascinating. Got to take a obscene profit break here, folks, but we come back. Don't go away. Here is Joel in Newark, Delaware. Great to have you on the program. You're up, sir. How are you?
Mega dittos, Rush, from the first state of Delaware.
Thank you very much. Great to have you here.
Retired. I'm formerly a U.S. Navy veteran, and I'm a retired police officer from Massachusetts. I was up there when Romney was governor, and Dukakis was up there. And I'm a reformed Democrat. I'm a Trump supporter, and I support him to the 100%. If Hillary Clinton gets away with what she's doing, then we are in big trouble. Now, just think of this for a minute. If it was any member of the general public, me, you, anybody, did what she was doing, we'd be indicted, we'd be in jail, and our accounts would be frozen.
Well, yes, but let me ask you a pointed question about that. There's got to be a better way. Hang on just a minute, Joel. Let me ask you a question. How in the world could you and I, as private citizens, have anything that a foreign government would want to buy from us?
Well, it could be. Suppose you were a corporation selling whatever.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant you and me, just as average citizens walking down the street coming out of Walmart.
But I mean, it's just the same thing as, well, lo and behold, we got enough of them in this country. Your average drug dealer, okay? They make millions of dollars in profit, ship the money overseas to be laundered, and it comes back clean.
Right.
Okay.
No, that's it, folks. He's exactly right. If any of us, or if any CEO, had endeavored to sell access to the corporation at pay-for-play basis like Hillary was doing as Secretary of State, you would be on a long walk. There's no question about that. By the way, folks, a reminder, if you missed the first half hour, the first hour of the program, make sure you go to rushlimbaugh.com sometime today or tonight and revisit the opening monologue on a new movie out called Greater. I don't want to repeat what I said, but it's all there. It's a new movie that I really hope as many of you who can get a chance to see it. And that's all I'll say. I don't want to waste any more time. Not waste time. I never waste time, but previously discussed it. Just go to rushlimbaugh.com and find out why if you missed the first hour of the program. Okay, Investors Business Daily, IBD, headline, Caution Men Not at Work. While the Fed and government policymakers fret over full employment, a new study by one of America's leading demographers and economists argues that, in fact, we're in the midst of a full-blown unemployment crisis that is hidden. It's not hidden from me. Anybody with half a brain knows that we have an unemployment. Well, you have 94 million Americans not working. The labor force participation rate is right now around 62%. That's the lowest it's been since the 70s, the Jimmy Carter 70s. This Friday, a new jobs report is going to come out. If the Wall Street consensus is correct, it's going to show the unemployment rate continuing to hover around 5%. But that is nowhere near the whole story. A guy named Nicholas Eberstadt, a fellow, that just means he's a thinker, at the American Enterprise Institute, argues in a new book called Men Without Work, it's coming out next week, that we are suffering not from full employment, but massive underemployment, and in particular, nearly 1 out of 6 working age men have no job and are no longer even looking for one. A release for his book calls this a hidden time bomb with far-reaching economic, social, and political consequences. With 10 million fewer male workers in the labor force than we should have, it is hard to disagree. This portends an entire generation of men with only a tenuous connection to the discipline and rewards of work. Now, I got to say something that's going to be, in this day and age, it's entirely yet unnecessarily provocative. For the longest time, the values of work are many and varied. And some of them are direct, such as producing income. I mean, you have to live. Work is how you earn your living. It's how you pay the bills. I mean, that's the direct number one benefit of work. But there are so many others. And it has always been true, whether the feminazis want to hear it or not. When talking about men, and men and women are different, and I don't care what anybody thinks, says, or tries to say otherwise. Men and women are different, and men have derived their sense of self-worth from their work. Not only, but a great percentage of the self-worth that men have comes from their career, their job, their work. That is how they define themselves. Their job, their work, their career, their achievements is from where they derive their self-esteem. And it may be becoming true for an increasing number of women as our culture evolves. I'm not trying to exclude women, but for the longest time, that was one of the unhidden, unmentioned, but very tangible aspects of men working. And you take that away, and you have a problem on your hands. Not just the idle time, not just the lack of revenue, not just no income being produced, not just the inability to provide for yourself. The whole idea for many past generations of men was the test was, the objective was, the measure of a man was how well he provides for his family, protection, income, and all that. Now, feminism sought to attack that because they saw that as giving men more substance and more meaning, not including women and so forth. But look, all that's cockamamie because it happens to be psychologically and physiologically true. Men do not derive their self-esteem from whether or not they can play golf, how many beers they can consume on Friday night, or any of that. Now, sadly, some do, but you mean I'm speaking here now in traditional majority ways. If you take all that away, you have a recipe for big problems. You have men who feel worthless, purposeless, and unnecessary. And that is what is being discussed here. An entire generation of men with only a tenuous connection to the discipline and rewards of work. It'll have an enormous impact on future generations of young men. It's not exclusively a problem of the lower income classes, however. Today, women make up 57% of all college graduates, meaning that men in the current generation will be enormously underrepresented in the well-paying professions that require a college degree. That is not, by the way, by accident. There is a reason fewer and fewer men go to college. There's a reason fewer and fewer men want to go to college. So this guy's theory is that, in short, men are in danger of becoming a hidden and combustible underclass. And that's not good. A pull quote from the piece. This is indeed a silent time bomb ticking at the heart of our economy. To ignore it will surely lead the U.S. down the path to terminal economic and productivity decline, a lower standard of living, and an also-ran status among the global economies. Men and women are different, and men not working, men not producing, are men who don't have a lot of self-worth. And you know what happens from that. If you don't like yourself, forget anybody else. If you don't value yourself, if you have a perpetual inferiority complex, it's just in and of itself, that's not good. Exacerbated by these kinds of demographic trends. Okay, Rush, so what's your solution? Well, that's not, we're not at that stage yet. I mean, I doubt that a whole lot of people would automatically agree with any of this. So we still have to reach the quote-unquote consensus on the existence of this problem. The piece has all kinds of stats that I could share with you, but it's numbers. You lose track of numbers when you're listening to them. You don't have them in front of you. But over the last 30 years, the labor market trajectory of men in the U.S. has turned downward along 4 dimensions: skill acquisition, employment rates, occupational stature, and real wage levels. And that occupational stature is every bit as important as the wage levels. The two go together. Got to take a break. Be back after this. Don't go away. Back to the phones. This is Rob in Houston. Rob, you're next in the EIB network. Hello, sir.
Yes, hello, Rush. First-time caller, long-time listener.
Great
Rush,
to have you here.
And I just this thing with the Weiner guy, Anthony Weiner. I was just wondering. It seemed like the media is going out of their way to avoid any kind of a raising of the question. But is there any agencies that may be investigating the Weiner family, and what I mean by that, the welfare, the safety of the child, with all that's going on with the father? It seems like if this was an ordinary, just everyday citizen, getting caught with these kinds of issues going on, that could be documented. That
I think you've got a good point. I think you've got a good point. If it was any other Tom, Dick, or Harry out there doing this, child services would be on the scene already. But what you're forgetting out there, Rob, is that Hillary Clinton is involved. And there's nobody that cares about children more. Nobody has done more for children than Hillary Clinton. Not a single person alive. There's nobody that cares more about kids. There's nobody that's done more for kids. Well, Rush, if that's true, then how did it end up that Weiner was doing all that with the kids? Hillary can't be blamed for what she doesn't know. Well, Huma can leave the child with him because Huma knows that Hillary is a good friend, and there's nobody that has done more for children than Hillary Clinton. There's nobody who cares more for children than Hillary Clinton. It is a legitimate question. I, of course, am spoofing here, but it is. I mean, here you got Weiner as Carlos Danger acknowledging that he knows he's going to be discovered, and he's texting out these crazy photos with the baby there. Where's the mom? Why's the mom leaving the kid with the known sexter? It is a legitimate question. You know damn well Child Protective Services would be in there. A major crimes unit would be in there. Who knows who all would be in there? Trying to claim that the child was in an unsafe environment. It's a good question, Rob. It really is. Buck Sexton, late of the CIA, will be here tomorrow as guest host, and we'll be talking with Neil McDonough, the star and executive producer of Greater, in the 2 o'clock hour, the last hour of the program tomorrow. Have a great one, folks. Be back when I'm back.